Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Joined in the studio by two very special guests, filmmaker Michael Moore, TV host with the most, Jerry Springer. A very warm welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Let me come to both of you first. Jerry, you first. Is the political mainstream now under threat on both sides of the Atlantic?
Well, times are tough, and when times are tough, people, the way we have it set up, people tend to go to the extremes, at least those that are most vocal. And so there are people very upset with the establishment, the way things are running. And so it's not surprising that you would have that within both parties. However, I think come November, it's going to be a pretty clear choice. And the choice is, I would say, from my bias, that there's never been anyone running for president of the United States who is as well prepared and knowledgeable to be president who hasn't already been president as Hillary Clinton. Right. Then you have Donald Trump, who's appealing to the anger people have, but totally unqualified to be president of the United States.
Now, the reason I asked that question, Michael, is that it has been an unprecedented primary season, not just because Mr. Trump ended up winning the Republican nomination, but this remarkable run that Bernie Sanders has given Hillary Clinton for her money. No one saw that coming either, which is why, again, right, I say, isn't the mainstream under threat?
Well, the mainstream, the old mainstream is no longer the mainstream. Exactly. There's a new mainstream, and it's being run by young people, the engine of the Bernie Sanders. I mean, think about this. In the United States of America, a socialist tonight has 46% of the pledged delegates to the Democratic Convention, has won 22 states, almost half the states, a socialist. This is
from Vermont.
From Vermont. Yeah. This is amazing. It's historic.
It is amazing.
But it's because young people have been the engine of this, and it is a new time, and it's their time. The 18 to 40-year-olds. This is their election now.
Will they swing behind Hillary though if he doesn't?
Well, I think
because
so,
he's
yeah.
not going to get it.
I think so. Yeah. Don't you think so?
Yes.
Well, I think that the look, 80% of the people voting in November are either women, people of color, or young adults between the ages of 18 and 35. That's 80% of the voters.
And what in that group is going to vote for Trump?
Right. He has completely offended all three of these groups.
All I would say, gentlemen, is that we've had plenty of people on this sofa telling us that Mr. Trump would never, ever get close to the Republican nomination.
In fairness, he was running in a Republican primary.
Yes. But even then we were told he wouldn't get it.
Well, that was just in which would be the best candidate. But when you look at a Republican universe in America that is very
I understand that.
Very right-wing.
But he still wasn't supposed to get it.
I said last August he would get the Republican nomination, and I believe he can win.
You're an expert on the Republicans.
And I believe he can win in November.
You do?
Yes. I want to do an impersonation of myself at 25 years old. If you got a second?
For sure.
Okay, this is what I sounded like. There's no way an actor is going to be president of the United States, a B actor whose co-star was a chimpanzee. No way is that going to happen. Now here I am at 45. Ready? There is no way George W. Bush is going to get elected. Yeah. That's just not going to happen. Okay, I've learned my lesson. Trump can get elected. And I'll do the math for you quickly. All he has to do is win the traditional, what we call red states, from Idaho and Utah to Georgia. Win those states and then win the Rust Belt, 4 states. Yeah. If he gets Michigan, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin,
yes.
And he's big there.
But I want to try and broaden it out a little bit rather than just do American psephology. And that if Leave wins on June the 23rd, will it not have been propelled to victory by similar forces to those behind Trump and Sanders?
So this is really picking up on this point of a moment ago. It would certainly be most unusual in Europe for a referendum to be decided entirely on the question put before the people. People always decide that the referendum is about, this is your point of a moment ago, about whatever they want
and how they feel at the time.
And that's why it's so dangerous for a government to call a referendum, because normally a government is quite unpopular a year into office or a year into the office of this government. A lot of people will have their complaints about the government. He's also, of course, Cameron, relying upon Labour voters, Scottish National voters to go out and secure his victory for him. So for all of those reasons, it is very precarious. And I do think that tactically Remain has made a lot of mistakes. I think they did fire their bullets far too early. I think they have arrived at a situation where people think that most of what they say is exaggerated and unbelievable. And I think they certainly do now believe that the establishment is not to be trusted. So I'm very much agreeing with the point that you made before. Whether that leads to Leave winning, I don't know.
I mean, what is happening in both countries are there are huge swathes of people who feel left out and left behind. And this has been happening over probably 10 years or more. People on ordinary incomes haven't seen any of the benefits of growth. It's gone to a few at the top. It doesn't seem fair. They've paid the brunt. And if, as I hope, we vote to remain in Europe, those issues won't have gone away. We can't just think we've run the referendum, let's move on to something else. We do need a change in the way the economy works, and I would argue actually there's an even greater pressure on Labour to do that because we are seeing that in some of our traditional heartlands.
But here's the rub, as Liz says, a lot of ordinary people have lost out. That 2008 credit crash still rankles with people. They're still feeling the fallout from that. But in many parts of the world, the right is doing just as well, capitalizing on that more than the left. Why?
Well, I think, first of all, what we do share in common with your Brexit vote and Trump in our country is the rise of nationalism, manipulating people with the fear of the other, the immigrant, the Mexican, the Muslim, whatever it is. And this is a scary time, I think, for both countries, because this is kind of a 21st century crypto-fascism that's starting to boil up.
And there's an extra factor going on in the United States, which made Trump, in a sense, inevitable. We have, for the last 40 years in America, ever since Reagan said government can't solve problems, government is the problem, we have raised at least two generations of Americans to believe that government is horrible, that Washington is totally corrupt, that don't respect your president, hate Washington. So it was in every commercial you see in America, we have many more than you do, the television commercials, is that every politician, the other guy is a bum, should be in jail, a pervert, whatever. So after 40 years of that, we can't be surprised that someone ultimately rises in politics to be anti-government. And it's going to be someone, you have to be well known to run for president. So the only two fields in America where you can be well known, other than politics, is either sports or entertainment. Well, athletes are too young to run for president. So we should have seen that at some point an entertainer, and I'm not talking about Reagan, because Reagan at least was a governor before and had a political philosophy, not one that I like. But Trump is...
And do you think that it's partly, in a way, been a problem? I mean, obviously, the right often attacks collective government, but the left hasn't done enough to reform and defend it?
That's true. That is absolutely true. But anything the government touches, there is a right wing in America that has just built up this feeling that anything Washington does is horrible.
Can I just say
Can I respond to your point on
Yeah.
migration? I mean, in this country, since the 1960s, it's been almost impossible to discuss migration. It's been a taboo subject. And people have got more and more fed up with the fact that it's taboo. They don't feel that anybody is prepared to discuss the thing that matters to them most. And during this referendum campaign, whenever the question of migration is raised, the Remain campaigners say, let's talk about the economy. Let's talk about the economy. So I feel these people who feel that they've been ignored for 50 years on this subject feel that the referendum is an arch example of how people refuse to take what concerns them seriously. And if you were to say what you've just said, Michael, this is crypto-fascism, it isn't crypto-fascism. It's a lot of people being very worried about their jobs and housing and schooling.
You think that's why people are behind Donald Trump? Because they're worried about their jobs and their schools and that. You watch the rallies, if you listen to him, I mean, this is some scary stuff that this man is saying. It's outright racism. And it has to be called out for what it is. I have to say,
he was really talking about the referendum in this case.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying that it's two different things.
America.
I will say, I don't know how Jerry feels about this, but as outsiders, it's obviously up to you if you want to stay in Europe. But it looks completely bonkers to us that anybody here would want. Why would Britain want to leave Europe?
Can I just come back to this issue though, of the
It's good
to have another American intervention. The president's one was we're not sure if it was helpful or unhelpful for the remaining.
It's not really for us to
point of
say,
view.
But I must say,
I'm
if,
just
if one
saying.
has to explain to an American why we'd want to be independent, it's
Independent.
it's a sad evening.
We live in the 21st century world.
Right,
There's
I
no
don't
such
want to
thing
do.
as you're on an island.
We've done
We
remaining.
want to be on a real island.
I want to ask, for all this talk about insurgents, and there's huge insurgents on the left and the right on both sides of the Atlantic, and the mainstream's under huge threat. But so far, the mainstream is still holding. Mrs. Clinton won the nomination, not Bernie Sanders. She's still favourite to win in November. She might not, but she is. Remain is still favourite among the bookies and so on to stay there. The hard right guy did not win the presidency in Austria. Marine Le Pen will probably come first in the first round of the French ballot, but not win in the second. The mainstream is still holding on by its fingertips.
Well, it may be too much of a cliche to just use that one term, the establishment, the mainstream, and then throw all these well-known candidates in. Clearly, you could look at Hillary Clinton and say, maybe she's too close to the financial institution. She's been in politics a long time.
Both are true.
Right, and incorrectly, wrongly, clearly, and has admitted that. But on issues like, health and children and education, no one seriously believes that if she became president, she'd be for cutting back on all that.
My question
stuff.
was just about the mainstream.
Yeah,
it wasn't,
she's
it wasn't for a
mainstream.
party political broadcast.
No,
That's what I'm saying. The mainstream's still holding.
Yeah, no, but 4 years ago.
Very briefly, because we're running out of time to talk about your
No, that's
documentary.
okay. I don't
I thought you might. I thought that might change your mind.
No, I'm just no. I don't.
right,
I'm not
no,
going to say
you're
a word
right.
about my movie. I want to say about.
No, we're going to move on because we like to think we're rather
I'm not here to
content.
talk about the movie.
See what happens when you get two other TV people in? Just behave yourselves. Or we'll send you back to the colonies. We like to think we're rather continental here on This Week. That's why we've made sure our working conditions are second to none. Short hours, astronomical pay, long lazy holidays, bottomless blue none. No discrimination, bullying in the workplace, no compulsory sexual harassment of anyone except Michael Portillo. Yes, we are truly living the social charter dream. That's why Michael and Jerry are sticking with us, and we're putting progressive Europe in this week's spotlight. Michael Moore's been on a mission. New movie, Where to Invade Next, sees the Oscar-winning American documentary maker travel to Europe to plunder some of its most progressive thinking.
I have invaded your country, essentially, to take this incredible idea that all college should be free for everyone. Thank you.
His films Fahrenheit 9/11 and Bowling for Columbine put the United States under the microscope. This time, Moore's looking further afield, asking whether the states would benefit from pinching Slovenia's higher education policy or Finland's child-centered schooling system.
School is about finding your happiness.
We got rid of poetry.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
It's a waste of time.
7 weeks of paid leave, but still in the world's top 15 most productive countries. Has Italy got its work-life balance right?
Do you mind paying your employees for all this time off?
No, assolutamente no.
È un piacere, è giustissimo.
Or maybe we should copy Iceland, where the only bank that survived the financial crash was run by women.
We have a gender quota for the biggest companies.
You mean the company's board of directors?
Yeah. So you have to be either 40%, at least 40% women or 40% men.
But among his invasions, Moore avoids the UK. So how does that reflect on us? And what lessons could we learn about the good life from our continental cousins? So if you're only allowed to take back one European idea to the States, what would it be?
Oh, geez. It would be not a specific thing like paid maternity leave or paid vacation. We don't have that, not by law. Nobody's entitled to a paid vacation. What I would take back is your general belief in the concept of we. You structure your policies around we. You have a belief that if somebody gets sick, we should take care of that person. That person should not have to go bankrupt or lose their home because they have medical bills. You're constantly in this attitude of we're all in the same boat and we're going to sink or swim together. You have your political differences, but your basic public policies surround we. Our policies are surrounded by the concept of me, myself, and I. You know, you've got your problems, I got my problems. If you got sick, you take care of it. I get sick, I'll take care of it. This is the wrong way The right way is your way, is the traditional European way, at least since World War II, has been to take care of each other. That we should not send a 22-year-old out into the world in debt simply because they wanted to go to
No,
university.
but in Europe, what we do with 22-year-olds is we just keep them unemployed. If it's all we, how come 50% of young Greeks are unemployed, 45% of young Spaniards, 22% of young French, 40% of young Italians? That doesn't sound
They
very...
want the euro.
It doesn't sound very to me.
Right, but what's that you're concerned about that, and yet you look at...
Why would you not be?
Well, because first of all, you look at the larger picture of this. You go to France, Germany has a high unemployment rate.
No, it doesn't. It's very
well.
low.
It has higher than the U.S.
It has the lowest.
Higher than the U.S.
It has the lowest youth unemployment rate in the Western world.
Yeah, it's Germany, France, all European countries traditionally have a higher unemployment rate than the United States. But again, the way you structure this is that while you don't have a job, there's a safety net, and the safety net helps guarantee that people don't slip between the cracks and people don't go crazy.
Okay, are you as taken by European ideas as Michael?
A lot of them. I think every civilization in the world, except possibly North Korea, because I don't know a lot about it.
Well, we're not allowed to go there, are we?
Yeah, no. But virtually every society, whether it's the United States or whether it's China, whether it's Cuba, there is a continuum, and you're pure socialism here and your pure capitalism here, and everyone is somewhere on that. So we say we're a capitalist society, but we have Medicare, which is obviously socialism, and we love it. We have Social Security. You talk about taking it away, people will go crazy. So we're a combination of both, and all societies are, and the discussion is, and where I'm on Michael's side, the discussion is we could probably move a little more down the continuum towards the we. So we're not just exclusively the I. I don't think we're all the way over at capitalist. I think we're a combination. I think every society is.
Is Michael right to be as enamored of essentially European social democracy is what he's talking about?
Well, I'm fairly enamored by it myself, and I'm quite interested in what different countries do. What I do think, having toured Europe a lot, is that it is quite difficult to translate ideas and customs from one place to another. Those ideas and customs arise from national circumstances, national history, and although we can admire those ideas, it's really very difficult to transplant.
To transfer. Here's the rub, though. Michael's talking about essentially European social democratic ideas, so is Jerry. European social democratic parties have never been in more trouble since the end of the Second World War.
Absolutely, and
including
this is
the British Labour Party.
Indeed, and that sort of lack of confidence, actually, I think that often afflicts social democratic parties across Europe when faced with these huge changes in the economy and how they're going to deal with it. You're right, you can't simply transfer one policy idea from one country to another, but actually opening your eyes and your minds to the fact that possibly things could be different gives you hope and optimism against all the naysayers and doom and gloomers who tell you nothing can ever change. So I always think it's good to learn from other countries.
What else did you learn, Michael, doing this?
I learned that, like I said in the movie, I went to pick the flowers, not the weeds.
Sure.
So what you bring up, yes, but they have this high unemployment. Well, but that's like saying, let's say you were to go make a documentary about the United States, and you wanted to show how great Silicon Valley is. Americans are great inventors, Apple and Google and all this. And then you came back here and you showed this on the BBC, and then some presenter said to you, how come you didn't point out that there's a mass shooting in the U.S. every single day? There's now at least one mass shooting. And it's because that has nothing to do with the fact that they have Apple and Google and they're great inventors. Countries have both things. And we in America, the little we hear about Europe, it's always negative. It's always bad. It's always how things run rotten here. And the Italians are in their 525th government since World War II. It's like I want to show Americans that Italians, it's 7 weeks off with pay.
When does it come out?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night?
Yes, we're going to be in 125 cinemas.
Excellent.
Opening night of the Sheffield Film Festival tomorrow night. And then it's being live to 125 cinemas.
Can I bring my senior citizen card?
Of course.
Yeah, you can come for free.
He'll let you in.
Surely
Don't worry.
not, Jerry.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
not,
wait a
I'll
minute.
pay
That
for you.
sounds a little socialist to me.
Well, maybe we'll have to give him a
little
subsidy.
bit is good.
Thanks to both of you for being with us
Thank
today.
Thank you for having us on.
Yes.
I've been getting away with
with it all.